Welcome back to our Spark Learning session. Today we'll be talking about missing data. Often data sources are incomplete, which means you'll have missing data. You have three options for dealing with missing data. First, leave the missing data as it is. Secondly, drop the missing data from the table. And thirdly, fill them with some other value. What you do will depend upon case by case basis and what you are trying to achieve. Let's focus on keeping the missing data. First, let's import the PySpark. Secondly, let's find the Spark in the computer. I'll just copy and paste it from my other screen. Easier that way so that I don't make any mistakes. Import PySpark, and from then we need to import some thing from the PySpark SQL import. We want to do Spark session, and from and also we want to import functions. Import min. We will need this later to do our some computations. Therefore, I'm importing here right now. It's easy that way. Creating a Spark session with the app name. I will name it Spark session builder, and app name. App name will name it as a miss. Getter create. All right, let's do it. Let's run this thing. It's running right now. Now, as a next step, we need to import a CSV file to our session, and that's what we're going to do now. We will read a CSV file called contains null CSV. Contains null CSV file. We expect the header in it, so the header is true. And infer schema. As we read, we will try to infer the schema as we read the file. It's a schema on read. It's not schema on write, but schema on read. That's a important functionality of the big data. Schema on read. Next step, we need to look at the what's inside this thing we imported. Let's see what's there. And there's some values here: ID, name, and sales, and there are 4 rows. It's a 3x4 table. You need to drop the missing data. For this, we'll use the drop df data frame dot init drop function, and it takes 3 parameters: how, threshold, and subset. How parameter can have 2 values, any or all. Any will allow you to drop any row that contains any nulls. All will require you to have all the columns in particular row to be null to drop it. Threshold, which overrides the how parameter. You give how many columns have non-null values. If it falls below that certain threshold, then it will delete the row, drop the row. Subset is a scope of this operation. We want to focus on a particular column or a subset of column from the table. That's what it's about, parameters. That's what it's about, a subset. Now we'll do some examples. df.na.drop. Sure. What do they do? It will drop all the columns, all the rows that have null values. You see here, it doesn't have any, it dropped all the rest of the 3 rows and it just kept only 1 row because this one have all the values present. Secondly, we want to write a command that drops rows only when all the values are missing. Let me write it down. Dot drop dot how all dot show. Here we see that we didn't drop any rows because all the rows we have at least one value present. Therefore, no need to drop any rows. Let's see some other examples where we do a subsetting. Data frame dot na dot show na dot drop subset. We want to focus on only certain columns. Let's focus on 2 columns, ID and sales. Here we'll drop if any of the 2 columns have any missing values. And that's what it did. It only focused on ID and sales and drop those columns, those rows that have missing values in any one of these columns. Now you see it did not drop the first row because even though the name has null in it, it did not drop that row because it's out of scope for this operation. Next, we'll work on the threshold. df.na.drop threshold, meaning it needs to have at least 2 non-null values for it not to drop it. Let's see what happens here. Fresh H. What do the results say? Results say that it has dropped employee 2. And employee 2 is dropped because it had only one non-null value. Other had at least 2 or more, so they were not dropped. Moving on to the filling the missing values. This one is interesting. we will show some examples using fill. The function we use here is not drop but fill. Fill, and we'll just write fill value. We'll just write fill value here and dot show. Here it fill the only name column, but it not fill a sales. Why? It did that because fill value is a string and name column is a string. Therefore, it only focus on the name column. I did not focus on sales, which is more numeric, and that's why it fill the value only in a string column, which is name. Let me show you some other example. df.na.fill show. What will do? Can you guess? It will fill only numeric columns. It will not fill string columns. Remember infer schema? It will use that knowledge here. Let me just go back, and you see this infer schema. It will use that knowledge to fill the column appropriately. When you do this, it will only fill those columns which are numeric. And sales is numeric, that's why it has been filled here. The best practice in doing this is not to utilize the intelligence of Spark, but to provide or specify which function or which columns you want to fill. It is write once and read many times kind of thing. Let me do it. Let me show you how to do this by specifying a column. No name is that what we want to fill, and subset is name. This is the best practice, and that's how it needs to be done in production ready code. And we want to see what's inside it. And it has filled the name column using no name. Another best practice or another common practice, if there's a numeric column, the one common practice is to fill using mean value of that particular column. Let's try to do that as well. Mean val equal to df select mean df data frame sales collect. Here we are doing calculation of the particular column mean, and we are storing that into a mean val variable. And this variable will contain a row which still further needs to be parsed to extract the value we are looking for. Mean val, it will store as a row, and we have to extract that using this providing some row and integer access. Now we can store this into some variable, and we will store that into some variable mean sales, mean val, 00. Let's see what happens if we do this. Dot show. Okay, I think I made a mistake here. I should have done mean val. Let's do this. Mean sales. There you go. We got 400.5. Another way of doing this is to put everything that into one line. We can do this. We can do this by using everything into one line. First of all, we need to take this and put it here and extract the certain value from that. Now we have the mean value, what we need. Let's get the function what we are looking for that actually fills the value, df in a no name, and the column we want to work on is sales, and the no name is a value that we want to substitute. Instead of that, we will use this as a substitute, and it should fill that value to the all the cells where there is null, and there it does that exactly what we expected. Let me quickly summarize what we discussed today. We discussed about missing data. There are three ways to work with missing data: leave as it is, drop the row that has missing data, or fill the row that has some missing data. And we discuss about how to keep the missing data and how to drop the missing data. That's all for today. I will see you in next learning session. Thank you so much.